Good morning, stock traders, and welcome back to Stock Traders Talk Radio. I'm your host, Stock Sumo, and thanks for joining us on another magnificent Monday, August 20th, 2012. And joining us on this morning's program is Haas. Good morning, Haas.
Good morning, Stock Sumo. It feels like I've been away for ages.
I know Monday can't come soon enough, man, especially after last week. Wow, I'm excited to kick off another hot week here. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've had a few busy real work days. I don't get to dabble in the markets every day, unfortunately. But I'm ready. I'm back in action. And I'm ready to get started with the killer spotlight this morning, man.
Yeah, we had a good spotlight last week. I'm excited for today's spotlight. Haas, why don't you just take it away, bud?
Sounds good. This morning, we have a spotlight on Itonis Incorporated. The ticker is ITNS. If you guys want to pull that up, stock closed at 1.16 cents on Friday. It's kind of been hanging around this lower 1 cent area. Every once in a while, jump to the 1.5, come back down, but looks like a bottom is pretty much set in this low 1 cent area as far as what the share price has been doing over the recent past year. I'm just going to start off on pink sheets here, get an idea of what sort of filings we're looking at, what sort of pink status we're looking at, and just a general share structure here. As you can see right here, we got an over-the-counter pink limited information company. Basically, as we've said many times before, that just means that they don't have all their filings up to date on pink sheets. Fortunately for this company, they're actually working on some audited financials and some other things that'll get this upgraded to over-the-counter pink current status and even potentially uplisting with some audited financials. So keep that in mind. We should be seeing something related to that in the near future here. But they have put out some semi-recent information with this quarterly report, which we'll go over in a second here. I just want to go over the share structure. As we can see, as of February 29th, 2012, we have an outstanding share count of about 294 million shares. Really small float compared to that outstanding share count. I'm guessing it's much larger than this at this point. They have been doing some dilution over the course of the last year for a good reason, I would say. Authorized share count of 300 million shares as of November 30th, 2011 as well. So what I want to do now is just go briefly look at their website. I'm not going to go to all their subsidiary websites quite yet. Keep in mind this is a holdings company, so they're going to have different subsidiaries, different markets. But let's check out their general website first here. HTTP www.itonisholdings.com. Their website is fairly basic for the most part, but if you just go to the About section of their Itonis Holdings website, you can get a feel for the management and also just the general direction of the company here. Based in Orange County, Florida at this point, holdings company established in 2005. You know, they went through various changes throughout the years. And they're kind of just holding on in their niche markets now, just as of about 2010, 2011, where they're focusing on bringing on some of these higher quality subsidiaries and acquisitions. But go to the website here. You can check out the management team. You got Mark Chung, CEO, President, Stephen Pidliski Jr., Vice President, Secretary, CFO, Treasurer, Donald L. Jolly. They have their bios here. And then they're also bringing on some other technology officers and technology consultants as they bring on some of these technology and science-related acquisitions. But go check out this website. Click on the portfolio link. You can see one of their subsidiaries here, Paramount Discoveries, and we'll also be going over a couple of other subsidiaries that they've brought in more recently. This was their first acquisition, so this website is still in development. They need to update it a little bit and get it looking a little better, in my honest opinion. But that's about all I want to go over on the Itonis website itself. Let's go back to overthecountermarkets.com. And we see here their latest quarterly report that they filed. It says it was filed on June 12th, 2012. So let's go check that out and get some nitty-gritty details about what this company's got going on. And if you're interested in this company at all, which you're listening to the show, so you probably should be, I highly encourage you to go read this entire quarterly report 3 times, at the very least. I like to read quarterly reports 3 times. I find something new every time I read through one. And this is probably my 4th or 5th time going through this one before this stock spotlight here, and I'll probably find something new again. But there's lots of good tidbits about the company direction in here and exactly what's going to happen, what we can expect for press in the near future, etc. So let's just roll down this 10Q and kind of go through everything slowly, picking out some key points of information. Right here, you have, stock information, common stock, 300 million authorized. That's what we saw in the pink sheets, and also preferred stock. They have 5 million authorized of preferred stock. All right, let's keep scrolling down a little bit, and you can get an outstanding share count right here. As of February 29th, 2012, that's what we saw on overthecountermarkets.com. We have our outstanding share count, 294 million shares, 300 million authorized, 5 million preferred, and that smaller public float of 30 million shares. I'd be very interested to see what the public float is right now. I did mention there's some convertible shares hitting the market a little while ago, earlier in 2012, so that float is very, very likely much higher than that. But still, the outstanding share count's not too bad. We're looking at a 3 to 4 million market cap right now with that outstanding share count as is. So let's keep scrolling down this bad boy and get into a key piece of information that I always like to look at in any 10Q. We can see management's discussion and analysis of plan of operation. Gives lots of good tidbits, basically management bullet points about where the company's headed. So let's just go over this plan of operation in this 10Q here. Originally incorporated in 2005, went through a name change. We already covered that when we were looking at the website a second ago. It's focused its acquisition efforts in the scientific technology sector. Very important that Paramount Discoveries in the scientific technology sector. On September 1st, 2011, so late last year, we're looking at about a year ago now, Itonis entered into a memorandum of understanding with Paramount Discoveries Incorporated with the definitive purchase agreement, the agreement having been executed on November 4th, 2011. All right, so one of their main subsidiaries that we're looking at is Paramount Discoveries Incorporated. And they're still working on the exact share exchange agreement for that acquisition to take place, I believe. So we should be looking at something related to that in the near future too. And they're making some changes with the share structure to the point where they can actually make this acquisition happen. And we'll get into details of that later in this 10Q even. Company executing its new business direction. I'm not going to go over all the details of Paramount. We're actually going to go check out the website and get the details from the website itself, because the Paramount Discoveries website is actually pretty cool. So I'm just going to keep scrolling down this 10Q. All right, so one subsidiary, we have Paramount Discoveries. Let's see here. The company continues to seek out and acquire other high-growth businesses. Yeah, it doesn't give any details of them. Let's scroll down. All right, these are the details right here of this Paramount Discoveries acquisition. All right, on November 4th, 2011, Itonis, as discussed above, entered into a stock purchase and acquisition agreement with Stuart Robbins and Paramount Discoveries, Inc. for the acquisition of Paramount. And we have the terms down here. It's going to be a 100% owned subsidiary, but Itonis Holdings itself is forming a subsidiary to pop Paramount into. So Paramount Discoveries, Inc. will be acquired by Itonis Holdings, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Itonis. Itonis Holdings, Inc. will hold 100% of Paramount. So basically, they're doing a little spin-off company, Itonis Holdings Incorporated, and they are going to acquire Paramount into Itonis Holdings Incorporated, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Itonis. All right, so basically what they'll be doing is giving some Itonis shares to this Itonis Holdings company, which is in essence Paramount Discoveries once the acquisition is completed. And the amount of shares that they're using are 32 million restricted ITNS shares for this acquisition. So that becomes a problem now because we're looking at a 300 million authorized share count and a 294 million outstanding share count. But you still have, they deposited a few of these shares already for the acquisition. You know, you need to put some money up front. But for the rest of the shares to actually be given to Itonis Holdings, they need to raise their authorized share count and issue more outstanding shares. So it's actually going to be an outstanding share count of higher than 300 million shares, which are authorized right now. But over 50% of the shareholders have already voted to raise the authorized share count to 1 billion, which we will very likely see when we start getting the newer financials coming out here in the near future. And then they can complete this acquisition for good. But basically, Stuart Robbins is signing all rights for the Paramount Technologies, and management agreement will be structured so that Stuart Robbins, highly involved in Paramount right now, will be the day-to-day manager for Paramount. All right. Let's keep scrolling down on this bad boy. Here we go. Here's some details on the raising of the authorized share count. The company has announced that it has developed a web portal for mobile and light computer applications under a to-be-activated approckets.com website. This is another one of their subsidiaries. They've been putting news out recently. So we have Paramount Discoveries and also now this approckets.com, and we will be checking out that website in a bit too. The company developed AppRockets internally, which is being readied for launch to the general public. It's already been launched, I believe, on July 5th or something. We'll check out that press. Meanwhile, the company continues to pursue and finalize a rare earth metal project. All right, so right here we're getting very vague details on another potential acquisition or business focus here, some sort of rare earth metal project that'll be coming our way in the future. There hasn't really been any news out on that. I think it was stated in one of the CEO updates to the shareholders very briefly, but details are pending as far as that rare earth metal project goes. But the diversity of the acquisitions and subsidiaries that this company is bringing in is really putting them into some niche markets that have a lot of potential. So I like what they're doing here. On May 25th, 2012, 10 shareholders of record holding over 50% of the issued and outstanding shares. So another thing to keep in mind, you have a very small number of shareholders holding a very large number of shares, being able to vote in basically any direction that they want. Approved the increase in authorized shares from 300 million to 1 billion shares. And again, like I said, this is the outstanding, almost matches the authorized share count at this point. And they need the extra shares, which will be restricted for a certain period of time, but they need the extra shares to complete these acquisitions with Paramount and the AppRockets subsidiary. And also, this rare earth metal project. And then the fourth one, which we'll get into a little bit, the Itonis Pharmaceuticals subsidiary. Anyways, on June 4th, 2012, Board of Directors approved the issuance of a Series A preferred shares, 1 for 1,000 as far as the votes go for those Series A preferred shares. And we mentioned those, the 5 million preferred shares. And you can also use those for some sort of acquisition or management payment plan or just to raise money in general. Looks like legal proceedings, I'm not going to go over it. It seems like a very small issue. but you can go check that out. They haven't been served. Let's put it that way. Let's go over some of the balance sheet now. And before we look at this too much, and we'll probably end up skimming over it for the most part anyways. Keep in mind, this is a holdings company. They haven't completed any of these acquisitions. Paramount's obviously in the research and development stage. They have filed some patents recently, and they're looking to license their technology for some revenues soon here. But revenue side of things right now is basically nothing. As we look at this balance sheet, we have assets, Paramount acquisition, 200, that's where most of their assets are going to be coming from right now. Small number of assets for the most part, $1 million in liabilities. A lot of people look at it and they're like, oh my God, $1 million. But it's what you're going to see with a company at this stage on the over-the-counter markets. So it's just something that a lot of people don't even look at, but most of those coming from share liabilities, and a lot of that related to some of the acquisitions that they're taking on here too. But that's about all I really wanted to look at as far as the assets and liabilities go. As far as revenues go, excuse me, we are looking at zero revenues, as I mentioned. And, overhead costs, not ridiculous, 131,000. So not too much to look at in terms of the balance sheet itself. Let's keep scrolling down here. I thought there was a couple other good tidbits that I wanted to go over. You know what? That might be it as far as this goes. All right, we're good. Let's get off of the 10Q here. My eyes are starting to hurt from looking at that anyways. Let's go check out some of these portfolio companies that Itonis is bringing on. The first one I want to go to is one that I am personally most interested in because I really like it, is Paramount Discoveries. We've all seen, the giant magnets and what people can do with the giant magnets, mostly made out of iron and magnetized iron. But how about some of the other, I don't know how familiar our listeners are with science, but how about magnetizing some of the other elements? And that's basically what Paramount is focusing on. So let's check out what these guys do. They're looking to magnetize 3 different particular compounds/elements, carbon being the first one. Carbon everywhere in everyday life, we're made of carbon. All organic compounds are made of carbon. Basically, everything has some component related to carbon. So being able to magnetize it allows them to control it, and being able to control and make carbon through magnetization allows you to do really freaking cool things. Let's just check out this here. Carbon has always been a main component in many areas of the industrial field and continues to be a building block for many useful applications, although considered virtually impossible. Science has been trying to magnetize carbon for many years, by the way, before Paramount seems to have figured it out. Some elements are easier to magnetize than others. Carbon has been proven very difficult, but made a scientific breakthrough more than 8 years ago by generating the key frequency to magnetize the element carbon. The potential to stimulate magnetism in carbon has been a controversial topic in the scientific community for decades, having an extraordinary impact on many different technologies. The ability to activate the magnetic moment in an element such as carbon also means having the ability to polarize that element, with polarization being one of the foundations of elemental control. So as far as the carbon market goes, one of the key foci for this, I'm not going to go over all this, you can go read this yourself as far as what some of the potential applications are. But, I mean, being able to control carbon is being able to control basically life, if you think about it. I mean, you can control so many different things. They talk a lot about different types of fuels here. All of our fuels, oil, gas, made of hydrocarbons, um, and also in the technology and hardware industry, little computer chips, being able to control carbon to produce these chips so that they don't overheat as easily, and just tons of other useful uh, things you can do by being able to magnetize carbon. So magnetizing carbon is one thing they can do. I'm not even going to try to gauge the potential of the market potential for this company on being able to magnetize carbon. Magnetizing salt, think of the desalination of water. Obviously, the biggest market we're looking at right here. The desalination of water, as stated in some of their press releases. We're looking at about $100 billion market from 2005 to 2015. I mean, just obviously just, forming pure water from salt water, but also in agricultural fields, being able to water fields with salt water and just use the magnetization of the salt to leach out the salt so you have pure fresh water for your agricultural products. So, I mean, the potential for that, obviously massive. And then finally, magnetizing silver. Silver, another element that has been very, very difficult to magnetize over the years, and these guys apparently have figured it out using like 70 different properties or something. You can go check out the press release yourself, but think about being able to magnetize silver. Silver used in different industrial and manufacturing processes, obviously, but also just for mining. Separating silver during different types of leaching technique, while using different types of leaching techniques for mining ore in different types of silver mines. So the potential for magnetizing silver, obviously huge as well. All right, so those are the three main elements, and salt being a compound that they're magnetizing right now. They've already filed a patent for magnetizing carbon, and they are working on filing patents for magnetizing salt and magnetizing silver. And I highly encourage you to go check out this website and check out some of this other stuff on the site too. EMFT safety, it's fully safe. And just the Paramount Discoveries company itself, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Let's get into some of these other subsidiaries. Now let's move over to the second one that I mentioned, the App Rocket. And I'm going to go check out a press release so we can get a nice little description of this actual subsidiary. But www.approcket.com was just launched recently in July here. Tons of cool applications for iPhones, Androids, and different types of things like that. Games, reviews, tech reviews. Let's go check out recent press on that so we can get a little tidbit on a description here. Looks like launched on July 5th. Let's just go over this press release. Itonis Incorporated today announced that on July 5th, 2012, it successfully debuted its AppRocket subsidiary, a consumer technology website that also functions as a PC and mobile apps hub. AppRocket provides access to a vast directory of apps for Windows and Mac operating systems, as well as current consumer technology news and reviews. The website will also be a platform to market proprietary mobile apps developed by AppRocket for Androids and iPhones. Such apps are expected to be released in the fall or winter 2012. So we should be seeing a ton more apps added to the AppRocket website in the fall and winter of 2012 here. Exploring media and advertising opportunities. And this Corey Washington and other management personnel that they just added coming on, Chief Technology Officer, is the main management personnel for the AppRocket subsidiary. So that's a little bit about the AppRocket subsidiary. So now we have Paramount Discoveries, we have AppRocket, We have the mention of the rare earth metal project. We're still waiting for details on that one. So that's 3 potential acquisitions that we're looking at here. And then recently in the press, no website for it yet, and they actually put out news on it this morning. I better go over this before we get started trading for the day. We got about 4 minutes till the market opens. Is Itonis Pharmaceuticals. I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with Zicam, but it's basically a nutrition-related formulation, vitamin mineral formulation for colds, flu, different symptoms related to those things. I've actually taken this product several times myself. There's little, think like vitamin C pills, something you'd find in a health store for a cold. All natural vitamin formulations and not the hardcore drugs that you get when you go to the doctor. Products that don't necessarily need FDA approval. So you don't have that long drawn out process. You don't have to do all the clinical trials. You can just do some simple tests and get them out on the market as basically a dietary supplement. But Itonis Incorporated, this press was put out this morning. Last week they briefly mentioned that they were forming this Itonis Pharmaceuticals subsidiary, heading it, this Charles Hensley. But this press out this morning, Itonis Incorporated and Charles Hensley, PhD, the inventor of this Zicam cold remedy. So this guy already invented Zicam, which is $1 billion plus product, by the way, are pleased to announce plans to introduce their first product offering since the creation of Itonis Pharmaceuticals, a division of Itonis. The new division will concentrate on marketing over-the-counter and prescription preparations to treat both common ailments and chronic diseases. Over the coming weeks, Dr. Hensley and Itonis Pharmaceuticals will outline plans to introduce into the marketplace an over-the-counter, systemically active preparation delivered via a nasal and or sublingual spray for the alleviation of mild to moderate nausea caused by motion sickness, dizziness, migraine, gastroenteritis, food poisoning, and possibly by chemotherapy, without many of the common side effects associated with current over-the-counter and prescription treatments. This Dr. Hensley, highly involved in this little market here, consults with different corporations, and he fully believes in this nausea-related market. And he estimates it to be a $500 million market annually for this nausea-related market. And while people are gearing towards these different types of dietary supplements and alternative forms of treatments for a lot of these common ailments, it could potentially provide a nice little boost to the Itonis bottom line once they get these products out to the market. So I'm very interested to see what sort of developments we see along the lines of Itonis Pharmaceuticals in the near future as well. All right. So we have Itonis Holdings Company, and they're basically bringing in about 4 acquisitions right now. You have the Itonis Pharmaceuticals, you have the App Rocket subsidiary, you have Paramount Discoveries, my personal favorite, and you also have the mention of the rare earth metal project. They're in discussions right now, probably on non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. Can't really talk about it yet, but hopefully we'll see some news related to that acquisition in the near future as well. Let's check out the latest, well, not the latest, but back on May 19th, 2012, I just want to go over this CEO update to the shareholders, get an idea on some of the other things. Since my last update on March 15th, 2012, we had made much progress across several areas. We were making great strides with the audit process. I mentioned they were doing audited financials, and they were, as stated in here, they were expected to be done by the end of June. And I think a later update, they said they were expected to be done at the end of July. So I know there's a lot of frustrated people out there that have been waiting for the audited financials that keep getting delayed. But what they don't understand is that audited financials are very difficult to do. And you want to make sure you have everything right before you put them out. And I have a feeling we're going to see them out in the very near future. just a hunch, but we'll see. Keep your eyes out for audited financials in the near future. We are making great strides with the audit process, although it's been very time consuming, yada, yada. Our last press release announced the first of provisional patent applications on Paramount Discovery's electromagnetic frequency technologies. That's what they use to magnetize these different elements. And you can click on this and you can go see the actual patent itself, or the filing of the patent, I should say. It doesn't have all the details, obviously. And they're focusing on patenting the salt and silver technologies as well in the near future. So we'll probably be seeing some press in the near future related to those patents being filed. We also remain busy developing other opportunities, including one in the mobile technology sector. We've already went over the AppRocket subsidiary. Keep in mind, this is an older CEO update. And also, this is the only press release that I've seen where they mention this rare earth technology that they're looking to focus on as well for one of their other acquisitions. But as far as news flow goes, the company's been keeping their shareholders up to date. They're doing some great things. Go check out the news flow over the last year and a half to get an idea of what's kind of been going on. They've been bringing on these different acquisitions. Most of the focus has been in the development of the Paramount Discovery side of things, filing patents and whatnot. But now they're starting to get going with this AppRocket and also Itonis Pharmaceuticals. So we should be seeing tons of news flow related to all these subsidiaries in the near future. And based on what you read in these press releases and stuff, all of them are looking to get going in hardcore fashion in late 2012 here. This company could literally go from, no revenues, not a whole lot going on, to looking at some pretty steady cash flow and revenues starting to flow in late 2012, early 2013. But one of the first things we're going to be seeing, as I mentioned, just so you don't get surprised by it, is authorized share increase from 300 million shares to 1 billion shares. And a lot of people look at that as negative. I take it as it depends on the company. It depends on what they're raising the authorized share count for. Are they doing it to line their own pockets? Are they doing it to bring in value to the company? And this particular company, they're raising the authorized share count so they can, complete all these acquisitions. And doing it with restricted shares obviously reduces the hit to the common shareholders of the common shares right now. But some great information coming out from this company, and I think the end of 2012, early 2013 is going to be a big time for this company, a tipping point, if you will, to set the new direction and see if they can get some of these subsidiaries really going. I think that is about everything I wanted to cover for the spotlight today. So I'm going to roll over to DD Amanda. We'll check out recent dollar volumes and get an idea of what the trading's been like over the recent past, and then we'll take a look at the chart as the market has just opened. But you just look at this briefly up here. You can see that this thing was trading at some higher prices back in springtime, 5 cent area and above. And we had some major dollar volumes flowing around that time. There were a lot of promotional newsletters on this company around this time, and that's another thing that a lot of longer-term investors look at as negative. You see some of these smaller newsletters getting paid to pump up a stock. Kind of taints the stock. But, sometimes that's not always in the control of the company either when third parties are getting hired. But you can see the large dollar volumes around 3 cents, large dollar volumes around 4 cents, and the stock's really not moving. That's where I think the actual public float was increasing, and we're seeing some convertibles hit the market. So maybe the third party holding convertible shares was hiring out to bring some volume to the stock. But as you can see recently, very low dollar volumes all around the low cent area. Every once in a while you get a short little pop up to 2 cents on small volume, keep in mind. So down here the stock is actually really thin, and that public float probably isn't too much higher and then the 29-30 million shares that actually states on over-the-counter markets. But the audited financials will get more information on that. So the stock price has kind of been hanging out in this low 1 cent area on really, really low volume. So if we see some volume coming into this, which I think we will, with all the news that they've been putting out recently and really getting these subsidiaries going in the fall and winter of 2012 here, I think we could see a nice little share price bump. So definitely want to put your eyes on and do some DD. Sumo, why don't you pull up a chart for us? Come on, boss.
Sure. Hey, excellent. Well done, as always. Super DD on ITNS, Haas. Let's take a look at the chart. And as you mentioned in the beginning of your spotlight, you said it was coming off of a bottom. And as you can see here, it's coming off of a nice support level, which looks like a solid bottom. And the key thing about this coming off the bottom was last week it broke above the 20-day moving average. Currently, you got the 20-day sitting at 0.11. I'd like to see that hold as support. It was bumping its head up into a little resistance here at the 50-day moving average, which is at 0.15. I'd like to see it break through that resistance at 0.15, and eventually I'd like to see this 50-day moving average turn into a new support level. So as you can see, it's making higher lows off of this recent bottom. The RSI recently got above the 50 MA overlay and is holding above the 50 MA overlay. I'd like to see the RSI continue to head north, get through the 50 line, and head up into the power zone. Notice recently you had a crossover on the PPO. That's a very bullish sign. The PPO lines are starting to move up. Notice the PPO got past that 50 MA overlay. That's starting to show some strength. The blue bars on the histogram are at the positive side here. That's a bullish sign. The slow stow is currently pulling back a little bit. I'd like to see these lines hold above this 50 MA overlay. I'd like to see the slow stow cross over here, turn back north, hold above that 50 MA overlay would be key. So looking at this ITNS chart, it looks like a prime bottom bounce play. I want to see it hold support off of the 20-day moving average, 0.11, break resistance at the 50-day, 0.15. So good looking stuff there. Great spotlight, very educative and informative, Haas. Good job.
Thanks, buddy. Great chart update. I like it.
Awesome. Well, it was another excellent spotlight. Looks like the timing is good as we're coming off this bottom. Definitely going to keep this one on watch, short term, mid-term, and long term.
That's what I like to hear.
Well, why don't we wrap things up? I think we'll end it on a good note. Excellent job. And if in case you missed part of the spotlight, don't worry, we'll be posting up the video after the show, so give us about an hour to do some editing, and we'll get that video of the spotlight out there for all the listeners. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio. All views and topics talked about on Stock Traders Talk Radio is solely for entertainment purposes. We are not professional financial advisors and always recommend you seek the advice of a professional financial advisor. Never invest in any stock featured on our show unless you can afford to lose your entire investment. The information contained on our show is based on sources which we believe to be reliable, but is not guaranteed by us as being accurate, and might not be a complete statement or summary of the available data. Stock Traders Talk Radio advises that the investments in companies profiled are commonly considered to be high risk, and use of the information provided is at the investor's sole risk. Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio.